Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be going over my early 2024 Heisman picks, my dark horses, and my favorites. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We post college football daily, and we're going to get back in the swing of things as far as posting goes. We've been on a hiatus, but college football season's approaching. We're getting back to the excitement of college football. Obviously, the video game talk's coming out. We're going to be doing our preview series again. So it's going to be really fun here on the channel. So if you want to join the community and talk football with us daily, please join. But let's get right into it, man. So we're going to start off with my favorites. Obviously, before I get into it, my dad is not here, so this is just my personal list. Normally, it's me and my dad, Kelvin, here on the channel, but he's on a business trip right now for the next couple of days. I'm really trying to get this content pushed out for you guys, so I kind of wanted to give my 2024 early picks for Heisman. So start off with my favorites. Dylan Gabriel is my favorite to win the Heisman this year. I think with him moving to Oregon and being the successor for Bo Nix, I think that offense fits perfectly for him. He's Mariota Jr., in my opinion, both out of Hawaii. Left-handed, obviously, but he has a cannon. Veteran in college football. He's transferred 2 or 3 times now. I think this is his best situation. Oregon is a top 5 team heading into the season. I think they're number 1, if not number 2 team in the Big Ten with Evan Stewart, Tej Johnson. Then they have a really good defense this year. Obviously, the first team in the Big Ten. First time in the Big Ten, first season there. I think this is going to be a dangerous offense, and I think Dylan Gabriel is going to put up some monumental stats. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't in New York at the end of the year. And he is my pick to win the Heisman this year, barring any injuries. But I do like him at Oregon. Moving on, my number 2, and the rest of these aren't really in order. Obviously, like I said, Dylan Gabriel is my favorite to win it. So the rest of these aren't in order, but there is 4 more I have for favorites. My second one is Carson Beck. I'm not too high on him. But I do understand he plays for a juggernaut. He plays for a machine in Georgia. As long as Georgia's 11-1 and undefeated after the regular season, I think Carson Beck is going to have an invite to New York. Obviously, he's a starting quarterback for them. We saw Stetson Bennett not put up, great numbers, but he went to New York. He obviously didn't win the Heisman, but he had the notoriety. His team had the success in order for him to receive that invite. I think Carson Beck is a little bit better than Stetson Bennett when we talk about intangibles and quarterback ability. But I think there's other guys in this list that are more dynamic and more deserving of the Heisman Trophy. But I do think Carson Beck is going to have himself in those conversations solely based off Georgia being a great team. I think Georgia is a lock for the playoffs. I think they are. I'm not going to say a lock for the SEC title because you have teams like Ole Miss and Alabama and Texas now who really can compete for that top spot in the SEC. But I do feel Carson Beck will be in Heisman talks towards the later of the year. I can't guarantee him being in New York, but I do think he'll be in discussions for sure. So Carson Beck is my second favorite for Heisman. Third, I think we have to put Jalen Milroe in there. Obviously, you have Kalen DeBoer coming off of a monster season at Washington. Obviously, taking over for Nick Saban. He had Michael Penix doing unreal things for the last 2 seasons. Obviously, Penix is a more gifted thrower of the ball than Milroe is, but Milroe is the most superior athlete at the quarterback position we've seen since Lamar Jackson 6-7 years ago. So I do think if used right, I think Jalen Milroe can win the Heisman. I wouldn't be surprised if he was holding that trophy in New York at the end of the season. He's probably one of the guys I'd like to see win it because of the kind of the negative talk surrounding him early in the year last year. A lot of people wrote him off, but then he had a really good back end of the season. Obviously, Alabama made the playoffs, lost in the first round, but I think Jalen Milroe is going to be a hell of a player under Kalen DeBoer in that offense. So we'll just have to see. But obviously, Alabama, another machine juggernaut. If this team is 11-1 and 12-0, he's definitely going to be in talks for the Heisman. So another guy that I would love to see win the Heisman. And I'm a Clemson fan, obviously you guys can see behind me, but I'm rooting for Jalen Milroe. I think he's a hell of a quarterback and a hell of a player, and he kind of put himself behind the Bryce Youngs of the world, the Tuas, all the great quarterbacks that were before him, the Jalen Hurts at Alabama. That he kind of has big shoes to fill, and I think this is the year where he can fill those shoes completely. Obviously, a playoff berth last year is nothing to kind of turn your nose at, but I think this year, putting up a really good season, top to bottom, start to finish, it'll be a good start for him. My number 4 is Will Howard. I think Will Howard has to be on this list. Obviously, he's going to have some of the most dynamic weapons at Ohio State after transferring there. He's going to have Quinshad Judkins. He's going to have Emeka Egbuka. He's going to have Jeremiah. So I think there's a lot of kind of good things to look at with Ohio State and Will Howard. The only question mark I have for him is, can he play at the highest level? Obviously, he's transferring over from the Big 12. The Big 12 is not known for the best football in college football. And I think you go to Ohio State where the expectations are monumental. Michigan has beat them the last 3 seasons. So obviously beating Michigan is a big, big task. You have to play at Michigan this year. I think if you can have a, even an above average season, kind of like what I said with Carson Beck, and Ohio State is 11-1 or 12-0 with a win over Michigan, I think he's a lock, to get to New York. And I'm saying if he's playing well, if he has, I would say Stetson Bennett type numbers that he had with at Georgia, if he has a Carson Beck type season, like I think he has the realistic chance to be in New York come January or December. So I'm excited to see how he meshes well with this offense. Obviously, Ryan Day is, I'm not going to say he's on the hot seat, but there's rumors around him because of the Michigan woes. So I think this year is going to be big for Ryan Day and Will Howard. I think, you have probably the most explosive offense and the best team top to bottom after all the transfer portal additions as well as recruiting, that Will Howard has all the necessary tools to succeed. And obviously last year you had guy who went to Syracuse, I forget his name, but you had him who went to Syracuse after he didn't kind of live up to that hype. Kyle McCord, I'm sorry, I was blanking. Kyle McCord. So I think now Will Howard knows he has to be that guy. So we'll have to see how he kind of pans out at Ohio State, but Ohio State's going to be a juggernaut. I feel like they're a lock for the playoffs and the Big Ten title game. So it's going to be interesting. Moving on to my fifth and final favorite. And a lot of people might not like this pick, but this is where I have Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart is in another good system with Lane Kiffin. I think they hit the portal hard defensively, so I think defensively they're going to be a lot better. Obviously, they lose Quinshawn Judkins and they replace him with a few transfers out of small schools. But I think this offense is going to air the ball out. I think Jackson Dart's going to be able to move around with his feet. He's not the athlete that Milroe is, but I think he can put up the numbers, and I think Ole Miss is going to be good enough to fight for an SEC title berth. In my opinion, they're the third best team in the SEC behind Georgia and Texas. So if they're able to win the Georgia game, or if they're able to see a Texas lose a game to an Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, or Georgia drop a game to someone they shouldn't, I think we could see Ole Miss not only in the playoffs, but we could see them in the SEC title game. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of reward Jackson Dart for being the leader of that team. If, let's say, hypothetically, they win the SEC, I think Jackson Dart, if he's a starter throughout the entire season and they win the SEC, he has to get the nod. When was the last time we saw an SEC quarterback who won the SEC not go to New York? Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, Stetson Bennett. I would assume, Carson Beck, but Carson Beck just lost to Alabama, so they obviously didn't get in. So I can't really name the last time an SEC team went to the SEC title and won and didn't send someone to the Heisman ceremony. Unless I'm blanking, let me know in the comment section. I might be blanking here. Obviously, don't have any notes. I'm just going off the top of my head, so I could be off here, but I do think if Ole Miss is able to get that done, which is a tall task, it's a staunching task. Don't get me wrong. I think winning the SEC is very hard. Obviously, it's the toughest conference in college football. But if they are able to do that, and I believe they had the third best odds right now to win the SEC, then I think Jackson Dart should be and will be in New York if they're able to do that. So now that we've gone over my favorites for the Heisman Trophy, let's go over my dark horses. So my first dark horse is Noah Fafita, quarterback out of Arizona. Obviously, he took over for Jaden Delora early in the season. And I think Jaden Delora is now at Texas State or North Texas, smaller school. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks. I saw him play in high school a few times in Hawaii. But Noah Fafita out of Servite High School with Tatario McMillan, obviously a dynamic duo, probably a top 5 wide receiver quarterback duo in college football coming back this year. He absolutely torched the Pac-12 last year as a true freshman. And I think with another year of experience under his belt, now moving to the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma on the way out, I think not only Arizona is a threat to the Big 12, but I think Noah Fafita is a threat for the Heisman. And this could, like I said, it's a dark horse. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was, through week 7 and week 8 getting real buzz. He's a plus 1,800 right now for the Heisman odds, which is crazy because of the stats he put up, and he had, I think, 3 or 4 games that he couldn't play, and he put up crazy stats last year. And with the Big 12 being wide open, again, I've been on record saying Utah's my favorite, but I do think that Noah Fafita can find a way and will the team to a Big 12 berth. And if they're able to get to the Big 12 title game, realistically, we could see the Arizona Wildcats in the playoffs next year. And I think if they're able to make the playoffs, he has a chance to be in New York, depending on his season. So Noah Fafita is my first dark horse. My second dark horse is Cam Ward. This is a guy not many people are giving the Heisman kind of hype to, but we have to realize what he did at Washington State with superior less talent than everyone else. He had a monster season at Washington State. albeit they finished 4-8. They lost a lot of games in the back end. They were ranked in the top 25 through week 5, and they lost a lot of games, obviously, but they were able to beat some good teams early on, and then they were just kind of fell apart. But we also have to understand that Washington State is not a program. It's not a power. He was playing with people who are 2 and 3 star wide receivers and running backs and offensive linemen. He's now transferred to the University of Miami, where he's going to have, if not the best roster in the ACC, the second or third best. He has a team that can legitimately win the ACC and make the playoffs. And I think Cam Ward is a top 5 quarterback coming into this year. So the reason, you have somebody like Nico out of Tennessee with higher odds, Garrett Nussmeier, Riley Leonard, Will Howard, even a lot of these guys have better odds than him to win the Heisman Trophy, which to me is crazy because I think Miami has a really good offense coming back. I think they have, like I said, one of the best quarterbacks. They have a solid defense, and they're in the weaker of the Power 4 conferences. I think the ACC is going to be the weakest of the Power 4, and I'm a Clemson fan. I think the Big 12 and the ACC are weaker than the SEC and Big 10 by far. So I think he has the road to win the ACC for one, which will put him in position for that national spotlight. So I do like Cam Ward there. My last dark horse, and a lot of people might not think this is a dark horse, but based on the odds, it is. And a lot of people know how I feel about Colorado. I think Shedeur Sanders is a dark horse for Heisman. They went 4-8 last year. I think this year, if they can go 8-4, 9-3, which I don't predict them to, I think they'll be 6-6. But we also have to look at how close of those losses were last season. They had a lot of close losses. If they're able to turn that around and go 9-3 or 10-2, we saw a guy like Jaden Daniels have a monster year last year and have 3 to 4 losses and win the Heisman. We saw Lamar Jackson have 3 to 4 losses and win the Heisman. If Shedeur Sanders can put up 50 or 40 touchdowns on 4,000 yards and just have absolutely monstrous stats and only have 3 losses with a team that is not projected to go above 500, I think this guy has to be in talks for the Heisman. And again, I'm not a Colorado or Shedeur Sanders fan. I don't like the way they're building the program through the transfer portal. But I also understand that you have to give credit where it's due. If he's able to do that with a 9-3 or 10-2 type team, which again, I personally don't have them going there. So don't crucify me in the comments. I have them going 6-6 this year. We'll do the preview. My dad and I will do the preview. I have them going 6-6. But if somehow, some way they're able to go 9-3 or 10-2, and he is not in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, assuming he has the same type of numbers he had last year, then that is criminal. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had around 30 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. And he threw the ball damn near 500 times. And he only turned the ball over 3 times through the air. I don't know how many fumbles he had, but he only had 3 picks. If he's able to do that en route to finishing in the top 4, top 5 in the Big 12, he deserves serious Heisman discussion. Serious Heisman discussion. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, who your favorites are, who your dark horses are. I'm going to continue to post these videos. It's really fun to kind of just go off the top of my head, no notes, no writtens, anything like that. Just kind of really just speak from my perception on college football. It's going to be very fun. Like I said, we're going to be doing our preview series soon. It's June. College football starts at the end of August, so we're about 100 days or so out. So this is kind of around the same time we started the preview series last year, and that kind of really ramped up our channel. We found a lot of you guys there. So as always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we will see you guys next time in about either tomorrow or maybe even in 2 days. We'll just have to see. Let us know what kind of videos you guys want us to put out. I appreciate you guys for rocking the neutral zone, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.